I'm gonna give you a minute to solve this. Okay, so for this one, we just have to substitute. So we're given that y equals x plus 3 and 2x minus y equals 0. So we just plug in this equation into the other equation. So we have 2x minus parentheses x plus 3 is what we substitute for y equals 0. So 2x minus x minus 3 equals 0 because you distributed the negative. And so x minus 3 equals 0, which means x is equal to 3. And so the question asks, what is the value of y? So to find y, you just plug this x into the first equation. So x plus 3 equals y. So 3 plus 3 equals y, which is equal to 6. So the correct answer is D. Okay, question 12. Okay, so for this one, it tells us that the function a of t models the number of liters of fluid after t hours. So equals 50 times 2 to the power of t, and t is hours. And we just have to convert this into m minutes. And so I'm just going to replace this t with h because h is just hours. And so how many minutes are in 1 hour? Well, we know that in 1 hour, it'll be 50 times 2 to the first power. So that's the same thing as 60 minutes. 1 hour is the same thing as 60 minutes. So m over 60 times whatever the equation is, which is 50 to the 50 times 2 to the power of m over 60 is the same thing, because in 1 hour has 60 minutes in it, so 60 over 60 is also 1. And you can do the same thing for other numbers. So the correct answer here would be A, because when you get 60 minutes, 60 over 60 basically just translates into 1 hour. Okay, question 13. Okay, for question 13, it says that k is a constant. If the equation has exactly one solution, which of the following could not be the answer? Well, if it says that it has only one solution, that that means that the correct answer has to be one which has all real values as the solutions. Because it says which of the following could not be the value of k if it has only one solution. Well, that means that the only other thing that it could be is all real values. That means whatever you plug in for x, this equation will always be true. And so the correct answer here would be that if they have the same exact slope, then these two equations would equal the same exact thing. And then whatever you plug in for x, it will always be true, which means that there would be an infinite number of solutions. So the correct answer here would be C, or 3, because 3x plus 8 equals, when you plug in 3 for k, you get 3x plus 8. And then no matter what you plug in for x, this equation will always be true. And so that means that there would not be only one solution. Okay, question 14.
If they have any questions, they can always raise their hand and question you, Pushya. Or they can even put it in the chat if they want.
Okay, so for this one, we just have to simplify this equation out. So we multiply the x, so that gives us x squared minus 4x equals, and this one we do the same thing, we cross multiply, which gets us x squared minus 2x minus 1. And then we still have to simplify, so we subtract x squared from both sides, and that would equal 0x squared. And then you add 2x to both sides, and that gets you negative 2x equals negative 1, x equals 1/2, which means that there is only one solution, or answer choice B. Okay, question 15. Okay, so for this one, we just have to multiply the exponents properly. And so 2 to the power of 2 over n is the same thing as root n times 2 squared. This we can simplify into 2 squared as 4. So we have root 4 to the nth power times root 3 to the nth power. And since they're both to the same power, we can multiply them, which gives us 12 root n, which is answer choice D. So 12 to the nth root. Okay. Question 16. Okay, so for this one, we're given a table and we're given X values of 2, 2, and 2, and different Y values for the same X value. And so that means no matter what, X is always equal to 2. It doesn't matter what Y is, X is always equal to 2 in the table. And so if X is equal to 2, then K has to also be equal to X, which is also 2. So K is equal to 2. And that is the correct answer. Okay, question 17. Okay, so for this one, we're given an equation, 12x plus 6 equals 4x plus 8. We just have to solve for x, subtract 4x from both sides, and you get 8x plus 6 equals 8. Subtract 6 from both sides, and you get 8x equals 2. Divide by 8, x equals 1 over 4. And that is the correct answer. Okay, question 18. Okay, so for this one, we're given two triangles and we're asked what is cosine B. And so according to SOHCAHTOA, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And so adjacent to B is 6, and the hypotenuse to B is 10. So you have 6 over 10, which simplifies into 3 over 5. And that is the correct answer. Okay, question 19. Okay, so for question 19, we're given a system of two linear equations has no solutions. Well, for there to be no solutions, it would mean that they would have to have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. So same m value, but different y-intercepts. And so for this one, it tells us that the second equation is ax minus y equals 1. Well, this would just mean that a is the same thing as the m value. And by m value, I mean y equals mx plus b. Well, m is the m value. So a is that. And we have the y value of -1, because when you swap the signs on the y value, you get the other side becomes negative. So the y-intercept becomes -1. And so that means that all we have to do is we just have to find the slope of the graph, which of the equation which we are given. And this one should have the exact same slope. And so we have the points -4, -1, and we have the point 0, 4. And so looking at the graph, we go up 5, and we go right 4. And so it's just rise over run, which is just 5 over 4, which is the correct answer. That should be the slope. And this other equation should have the exact same slope. Okay, question 20. Okay, so for this one, we have a simple exponential equation, and so that means the ratio between these numbers will always increase by the same amount. And so to find the ratio, you simply just take the different x values and compare it to the one before. So we have 16 over 12, and we can also compare 12 over 9. And so these both simplify into the same thing of 4 over 3, and that would be the correct answer. Because we just have to compare the next x term to the one before it. So 16 to 12, and we have to compare 12 to 9. And so both of these simplify to 4 over 3. And that would be the R value. Okay, now we're on to the calculator section. For question 1. You can use calculator for these now. Okay, so for question 1, we're just trying to find n. So we're at 2n equals negative 22. Just divide by 2, and you get n equals negative 11, which is answer choice B. Then question 2. Okay, so we're given that the ratio of trumpets to violins is 1 to 3. That means 1 trumpet is equal to 3 violins. And so if there are 9 trumpets, how many violins are there? So this is just 9 times 1. So 9 times 3 equals 27, which is the correct answer, or answer choice D. Okay, question 3. Okay, so for this one, we're given a graph, or not a graph, a table, and it asks which of the following surfaces is the range of albedos the greatest. And so the range is just the maximum value minus the minimum value. And just looking at the graph, we can pretty easily tell that the correct answer would be snow, or answer choice D, just because it has the largest difference in terms of the max and min numbers. The others are like around 0.1. Some of them are a bit higher, some are a bit lower, while snow is much larger difference. Okay, question 4.
She will end the session after this.
Okay, so for this one, we're given that the amount of sunlight falling in 1 square meter is 1,000 watts. And we're also given that an albedo is the light reflected divided by light falling, and it's measured in watts per square meter. And so we're asked in which of the following could be amount of sunlight in watts reflected from this 1 square meter surface. And so to solve this, we just have to look at desert, and we do 0.26 times 1,000, and we do 0.29 times 1,000 to get the range of values it could be, which is from 290 or from 260 to 290. And so the correct answer should be between 260 and 290. And so looking at the answer choices, answer choice A is between these two values. So the correct answer is A.
I just got mistaken. Actually, push it. You have time till 6:30. You can go ahead with the next question.
Sorry, what was that?
I just made a mistake looking at the time. You have plenty of time yet.
Okay. Anyway, question 5. Okay, so someone asked why was it not the other albedo for the last question? I'm not really sure what you're asking. Can you please elaborate?
They can unmute themselves and ask.
So my question was like on the graph, it showed like two albedos, one with the capital one and one with the no capital one albedo. And I was confused on how you found like the answer for for albedo because there was two.
Okay, so sorry, can you repeat that? It seems like my speakers were having a problem.
Okay, like in that problem where it was stated like there was two albedos, such as one with the capital one and one without the capital. So I was confused on like how you found out that it was one with the lowercase albedo.
Okay, so basically what I did was, we're given that it's a desert region, right? So we just have a look at these two values. We're given that one of these is a minimum and one of these is a maximum. And so all I did was, since we know that we start with 1000 watts, I just multiplied 1000 by the minimum and I multiplied 1000 by the maximum. And I know that the answer has to be between these two values. We're not told which value it is. We're just told that it's between those two values. And so when you multiply 1000 by the minimum, which is 0.26, so 1000 times the minimum, which we're given is 0.26. And we're given that the maximum is 1000 times 0.29. Once you multiply that, you get 290 and 260. And so the answer has to be between one of those two values, because the maximum possible is 290 and the minimum possible is 260 based on these albedo values. So that means it can't be anything higher than that and it can't be anything lower than that. And so the only answer choice which has a value between those two numbers is answer choice A. That's kind of how I solved it. Okay, so for question 5, we're given that if a male dog received if a male dog that received a vaccine is selected at random, so we're given that a male dog was selected. So let's first total up the male dogs, which is 6 plus 4, which is 10. So our denominator will be 10. And then we're told, what is the probability that the dog breed is an Alaskan Malamute? And so we look at where the column says Alaskan Malamute and male, which is 6. And so the correct answer is 6/10, which is 0.6. Okay. Question 6. Okay, so for question 6, we just have to find the y equals mx plus b. And so we know that x has to have a negative slope since the points have a general downwards trend. So we know that m is negative, so it would be negative x. And for the b value, we know that it starts at around 7 and it starts at around +7. So b is +7. And so we just rearrange this to 7 minus x equals y, which is answer choice D. Okay, question 7. Okay, so for question 7, we're given that the area of a square is 36. And so for a square, all the side lengths are the same. That's terribly drawn square, but whatever. And so that means that the area would just be x squared. So area is x squared. We just need to find the side length, which would just be x. And so 36 equals x squared. What is x? We just take the square root of 36, which is 6. The correct answer is answer choice B. Okay, question 8. Okay, so for question 8, we're told that the exercise period began at 5 minutes and ended at 15 minutes. approximately how many minutes did it take after the exercise period ended for the average heart rate to return to the average heart rate before the period began? And so we have to look before 5 minutes, and we can see that the average heart rate was at like 70. So the end point should be where it reaches 70 again, which is at around like 24. And we know that they stopped exercising at 15 minutes. So 24 minus 15 is 9. So the correct answer is A. Took them 9 minutes for them to get back to the average heart rate after the exercise ended. Okay, question 9. Okay, so for question 9, we just have an exponential equation, which is B, or not exponential, but basically an increasing equation. And so we just have the base value. We have 1 plus the ratio, and all of this to the power of time. And so the base for this is 200. The ratio, 1 plus R is 1.02. And the time, well, they give us in 2 years, and we just need for 1 year. So we just have to the first power. Anything to the first power is just itself. So the correct answer is 200 times 1.02, which is the answer choice B. Okay, question 10. Okay, so for question 10, we're given that 3x is equal to 8y. So what does 40y equal? Well, to get from 8 to 40, you multiply by 5. So to get from 3x to whatever it is, you just multiply by 5, which would be 15x. So the correct answer is answer choice D. Okay, question 11. Okay, so for question 11, it says, based on the model, how many teachers are to be in the high school in 2017? And so 2017 minus 2002 is 15 years. And so n is equal to 15. And so 80 plus 15 is the number of teachers, which is equal to 95, or answer choice C. Okay. Question 12. Okay, so for question 12, it just asks us to find a graph that matches S of n. So we start at 1280, and we have a positive slope, and we gain 30n every time. And so looking at these graphs, the correct answer here would be A. We start at around 1280, and the slope is positive. Okay, question 13. Okay, so for question 13, it says, what is the first year in which the predicted number of teachers will be greater than 90? So teachers is greater than 90, not equals to 90. It says greater than 90. And so 80 plus n has to be greater than 90. And then you subtract 80 from both sides, so n has to be greater than 10. Well, what is the next whole number greater than 10? It would be 11. So 11 plus n equals years after 2002. So 11 plus 2002 would get us 2013, which is answer choice B. So the correct answer is answer choice B. Okay, question 14. Okay, so for question 14, we just have to find what the mean length is. And so, or median length is. And so we have lengths of 210, 213, 140, 187, 150, 81, 100, 100, and 95. And so to find the median one, it would just be the middle value when you organize the list from smallest to largest. So in this case, we can just cross out the smallest and largest numbers one by one. And so 81, 213, 95, 210, 100, 187, and then 100 and 140, and we're left with 150 as the median length. And so we're asked to find which of the following is true about the length of the algebra giant tortoise in relation to the median length of the 9 turtles and tortoises. And so we look at the length of the algebra giant tortoise. And so algebra giant tortoise length 150. And so 150 compared to 150, the correct answer is A. It is the same. Okay, question 15. Okay, so for question 15, it just says if the data sets were combined, what would the range be? And so range is just the maximum value minus the minimum value. And so if you combine them, then, I mean, they're just combined. So the maximum value would be 160 and the minimum value would be at 10. So 160 minus 10 gets you 150. So the correct answer is C. Okay, question 16. Okay, so for question 16, we just use the exponential formula, the base value times the rate times to the power of time. And so the base value is 150,000. We're told that the number of bacteria doubles every hour for a limited period of time. So the rate is 2. And the time is x, because they used x instead of t. And so the correct answer here would be B. Okay, question 17. Okay, so for this one, the easiest way to solve it is to just use your calculator and graph these two equations since we are on the calculator section. And so graph y equals x plus 3 times x minus 7 and graph y equals x minus 7 and find out where they intersect. And so these are the two intersections of the graph when they're graphed. As you can see, it intersects at this point right here, which is at x equals 7, which means that the correct answer is answer choice D. Okay. Give me a minute. Okay, question 18. Okay, so for this one, we're given that the speed is 320 million feet per second. What is the speed in yards per minute? And so since we're given it in feet per second and we need to convert into yards, we have to divide by 3, which gets us like 106.6 repeating. And then we need to convert from feet per second into minutes. So we need to convert from seconds to minutes. So we need to multiply by 60, which gets us 6,400. So the correct answer is answer choice C. Okay, question 19. Okay, so for question 19, we have an equation, and we know that t is equal to number of years after 1969. So years after 1969. And so when we set t equal to 0, that means when we set t equal to 0, we get 10,268. And so that means that this number is equal to the number of students that were enrolled at that time at t equals 0, which means the number of students that were enrolled in 1969 or answer choice A. Okay, question 20. Okay, so for question 20, we know that y equals 44, x plus 500. And so we're given that y is income and x is the average customer rating. And so for every 1 increase in average customer rating, y should increase by $44, because when x increases by 1, y would increase by $44. So the correct answer is D. Okay, question 21. Okay, so for question 21, we're given 2 equations, and the best way to figure out how many solutions they have is just to graph them. And so, once you graph them, you can see that they're 2 straight lines, and they intersect at 1 point. Let me just draw that since y'all might not be able to see it. Basically, 2 lines just look like this. And this. That means that they just intersect at 1 point. So the correct answer is intertrace B. Okay. Question 22. Okay, so for this one, it's just based on the point slope formula for a quadratic equation. And so since the curve is opening down, we have a negative a value. We still have the x minus b squared, and we still have a positive c value. Or, well, we don't know what c is, but it could be positive or negative. But generally it's written plus c. And so the correct answer is intertrace A, negative a, x minus b squared, plus c. And it's 729.
Pushi, if it is done, we are almost time. So if you, are you
Yeah,
done
right.
with this question?
Yeah.
We can end the session.
Okay.
We'll see you all next week. Thank you, everybody.